The legendary Chicago Bears defense of the 1980s still holds the record for most sacks in a season with 72 in 1984. It's not often that we see a convincing challenge to such an enduring record in this league, but the Denver Broncos are on pace to break it this year. They have 46 sacks through 10 games, which puts them on pace for 78 in a 17-game season. Even without that 17th regular season game, which of course the Bears did not have in 1984, Denver would still be on pace to break their record. So this week, when I turned on the tape, I set out to figure out how the Broncos are sacking quarterbacks at such an incredible rate. And the film tells a story not only of extraordinary talent on Denver's defensive line, but also of the coaching staff's success in generating pressure with scheme. Any defensive line coach will tell you that the first step is the most important element of any pass rush rep. Explosiveness off the line of scrimmage gives the rusher an immediate advantage. If an opposing protector can't match such explosiveness, a rusher can win around the outside all day long. And if a protector overcompensates by extending the depth of their pass set, they become vulnerable to inside moves. A pass rusher can only be as good as his first step. And Denver's front office has obviously prioritized explosiveness on the defensive line in their team building process, especially on the edges. In 2021, Broncos GM George Paton drafted edge rusher Jonathon Cooper in the 7th round. And in 2022, he picked edge rusher Nik Bonitto in the 2nd round. Both Cooper and Bonitto are undersized but ultra-explosive pass rushers. The NFL's Next Gen Stats tracks the average amount of time it takes for pass rushers to cross the line of scrimmage. And this year, Jonathon Cooper leads the league with an average get-off of just 0.73 seconds, with Nik Bonitto right behind him in 2nd place with an average of 0.75 seconds. Both have a rare level of explosiveness that was evident in the past, but this year they've mastered calibrating the timing of their first step with that of the snap. And that mastery has generated tons of pressures and sacks for this Broncos defense. This play from back in Week 4 against Cincinnati is one of the coolest I've ever seen from any defensive line. It's 3rd and 3, and Denver shows heavy blitz with 7 defenders on the line of scrimmage. But they're bluffing the blitz call, and will roll into a drop 8 Tampa 2 coverage post-snap with just 3 defenders rushing the passer. Look at the jump that both Cooper and Bonitto get off the line here. They time the snap perfectly. There's nothing an offense can do to prevent this without chipping them with a tight end or a running back. When the defense has one guy who can get off like this, you can work around it. But when they have 2, there's not much you can do without sacrificing multiple downfield threats by keeping them in to protect. Denver can generate pressure on straight-up 4-man rushes because these edge rushers are so talented. According to NFL Pro, Nik Bonitto leads qualifiers with a pressure rate of 23%, and Cooper isn't too far behind him at just under 18%. No other team has 2 qualifiers, each with pressure rates of over 17%. Here in Week 4 against Philadelphia, Denver is up 4 with just over a minute left in regulation, so this is a high leverage situation. Bonitto is lined up on the right side opposite Jordan Mailata, and Cooper is on the left opposite Lane Johnson. Both Mailata and Johnson are all-pro caliber pass protectors, but both get beat by pure power rushes from Bonitto and Cooper. Being able to rely on your edges to beat all pro tackles with power in a high leverage situation is a luxury that very few play callers in this league have, but Vance Joseph is one of the few. And it isn't just Bonitto and Cooper carrying the defensive line on 4-man rushes. The interior guys get home too, just not as often as a result of a clean win over an opposing protector. Vance Joseph loves to call stunts between his 2 interior defensive linemen, which force consistent cooperation between opposing guards and centers in passing those stunts off to each other. Here in Week 7 against New York, the design calls for a stunt between John Franklin Myers lined up over the right tackle and Zach Allen lined up over the left tackle. Post-snap, JFM slants his rush inside to set a pick on the center, and Allen loops around the pick for easy pressure on Jackson Dart. By now it's obvious that the Broncos have one of the most talented defensive lines in the league, but without Vance Joseph's heavy blitzes and simulated pressures, they'd have no shot at the sack record. The impact that Joseph's scheme has on quarterbacks unlucky enough to have Denver on their schedule cannot be overstated. He'll often call simulated pressures, also known as creeper blitzes, which simulate blitz looks for opposing offensive lines without actually sending more than 4 rushers. Here in Week 3 against LA, Denver shows a cover 1 look with man alignment everywhere and a post safety. But this cover 1 call is unique because the pass rush is coming from the linebackers rather than the edges. Post-snap, both Justin Strnad and Alex Singleton rush up the middle, while Jonathon Cooper and Nik Bonitto zone drop to occupy the hook over the middle. The rush design causes chaos on the interior of the offensive line, and Herbert can't look to Keenan Allen over the middle because Bonitto is ready to trigger on the ball. This is another benefit of having such fluid athletes on the edge. Bonitto and Cooper aren't special in zone coverage, but they're capable enough to maintain the integrity of the design when they have to zone drop. Among true edge defenders, Bonitto and Cooper ranked 9th and 15th respectively in zone coverage snaps this season. There aren't many other play callers who are calling for their edges to zone drop as much as Vance Joseph is, and his confidence in Bonitto and Cooper in coverage allows him to get really creative with his blitzes and sim pressures. So far, I've mostly showed you 4-man rushes, but Vance Joseph calls a ton of blitzes. As of week 10, Denver's blitz rate of over 33% is the 3rd highest in the league, and there is so much nuance to the way Joseph's blitzes are designed. They call a lot of all-out zero blitz with single coverage everywhere and no safety help over the top, and they often do so without showing their hand pre-snap. Here, in week 2 against Indianapolis, Denver shows an ambiguous pre-snap look. They've got 2 deep safeties with off coverage on the outside, which can roll into pretty much anything. They could call quarters, or quarter half, or cover 3 robber, just to name a few. What this doesn't look like is an all-out blitz. Tyler Warren is not followed when he goes in motion, which suggests that Denver is in zone coverage. But they're sending the house with man coverage across the board. Daniel Jones never sees it coming, and he's sacked instantly. Later in that week 2 game, Indianapolis faced 4th and 2, down 5 at the 50-yard line. And Denver sent the house again, this time in a more telegraphed way. Mo Alley Cox is followed to the slot by the safety, which makes this look like the all-out blitz that it is. And this time, Daniel Jones thinks he has an answer. The concept tells Jonathon Taylor to flare out to the flat as a safety blanket for Jones in case the blitz comes. Assuming the linebacker lined up opposite Taylor is responsible for him, Taylor should have a leverage advantage as he sprints to the flat. But when Taylor gets out there at the snap, the edge rusher to that side, Dondre Tillman, peels off to cover him. That throws off Jones's process. He could have hit Tyler Warren over the middle if he saw it coming, but his eyes were late to get there and the pressure caused an inaccurate pass. Another great wrinkle included in a lot of these all-out blitz calls is pass rushers becoming zone droppers once they've achieved the objective of the rush. It got Denver a huge turnover in week 7 against the Giants. New York is up 10 facing 3rd and 5 from their own 35-yard line, and Denver shows a heavy pressure look with 7 defenders lined up on the line of scrimmage, which really becomes 8 when the nickel creeps in to join the rush right before the snap. New York keeps both the back and the tight end in protection, but with 8 rushers, someone is still going to get in free. Jackson Dart correctly reads this as zero blitz, so he thinks that as long as he buys enough time for Theo Johnson to break inside, he's got a completion and a first down. And he does buy enough time to get it out, but he can't get it over Justin Strnad occupying the hook over the middle. Watch this play from the tight angle. Strnad fakes the rush to occupy the center, and once he has the center's attention, he zone drops. The objective of a linebacker rushing in a zero blitz call like this isn't to beat their guy, it's to get someone else in free. Once that center is occupied, he's useless to the offense. And if Strnad engages with him, he makes himself useless. He's not going to create pressure with a win before the unblocked rusher does, so he might as well drop with his eyes on the quarterback. And that philosophy gets Denver a huge interception in a tight game that they would go on to win. The Broncos are comfortably on pace to break the sack record, but they do still play Green Bay, the Chargers, and Kansas City twice. All 3 of those teams have quarterbacks who are really good at avoiding sacks, so it's not going to be as easy as it might seem for the Broncos to get to 73. Either way, we're watching a historic defense with its top players locked down through 2027, so this pass rush is here to stay. Thank you guys so much for watching this week's video, and thank you especially for 50,000 subscribers. That is an incredibly huge number that I never imagined reaching when I started making these 5 years ago. The new goal is 60,000 by the end of the regular season, so hit that subscribe button to help me make that happen. It's free, and it's the best thing that you can do to help me continue making these videos. But that's all I've got for today. Again, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for all of you, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care.